These last few months at Gardening Club have had their ups and downs. We got our beloved shed. We had it taken away. We've gained many new members, but there aren't enough tools for them. We planted mustard seeds, but they've all died. It's safe to say that the future looks strong for our pleasant little idol, but it's not going to be without its challenges. After the Christmas holidays, we had the joy of our own shed. We made this shed feel amazing. We decorated it out of pocket. We got chairs, tables, a map. We even got a tea set for it. Everybody loved the shed. It was such a pleasant place to go for everyone. When people were feeling down, it was some place they could go in school where they could feel comfortable. And that's why it came as such a shock to us when overnight our shed was closed. It broke all of our hearts that we couldn't go down there except for the brief Wednesday afternoons when Gardening Club takes place.
I think it's infringing upon our rights that are given to us in the legal precedent set over the 1,000 years of English history. I was shaken to the core when I came into school one day to see a rival padlock on the shed. You know, with teary eyes and a trembling bottom lip, I was so upset.
But it hasn't all been down. We've had many positive things happen to us over the last few months, such as our Gardening Club blossoming in numbers after Wednesday afternoon activities were restructured. So now we've been able to establish different groups. We've got the Engineer Corps, we've got the Feculence Removal and Reassimilation Programme, we've got the Infrastructure Development Corps, we've got the Plant Corps, we've got the Heavy Lifters. These are all things that would have been completely impossible before the Christmas holidays.
So my job, because I'm the laziest person I know, is to do anything other than actual gardening. I tend to sit in the shed, administrating. I go around at Gardening Club, I rate everyone's quality of gardening. If they do bad gardening, I give them a punishment. If they do good gardening, I praise them. Only slightly, but I praise them.
So first off, our Engineer Corps, headed by Mckay, is over there sleeping on the chair. They're in charge of building all the fancy raised beds, the sheds, all that sort of stuff. And they're doing an excellent job at it, just a little bit on the slow side.
Well, I think a better question is, what haven't we been doing? So we've made raised beds aplenty to the highest standard possible. Such artisanal skill has gone into creating these raised beds. But it's not just that, there's a whole lot more. For example, we've constructed multiple compost bins since we've last seen each other, which will help increase the amount of compost and decomposing material that we're able to use in our growing season. We've also, quite notably, got a shed now, so that is a very crowning glory of the engineering department, although there was outside assistance from the school's caretaking team.
Our infrastructure development team are in charge of building our paths, and they are perhaps even slower than our Engineer Corps, but the jobs that they're doing, it's beautiful. I mean, I'm sure we've got footage of the paths, but they have turned out wonderfully, and that was previously headed by Ethan NG, but now it's sort of been taken over by Bella Pickup and Ben Wright. So congratulations to them for that.
Well, this year in Gardening Club, I've been proud to work on our pathways. Initially working on our one leading up to our shed, which is nicely cobbled and mostly complete. And now moving towards a larger perpendicular path, which leads from the shed to the raised beds. Beyond that as well, I have been able to assist in getting the raised beds ready for planting plants, actually getting on with gardening. Precision, I think, is very important when making a path, and you've got to be selective, especially when using cobbled, when making a cobbled path. you've got to be very selective about your rocks of choice for it to actually look good. Another thing is making sure it's all entirely steady and level, because otherwise it's just not going to be a nice path to walk on. I think the biggest is probably not to rush, because otherwise it will just not look good. It will be sloppy, and I think you've got to be, again, as I said more earlier, you've got to be more selective with your rocks used, because otherwise the path won't look good and it will just not be nicely fit.
My top tip for making a path is to not let other people get you down when you're trying to build your path. Because some people, they'll really try and break down your spirits, even if they don't understand how to make a path themselves. There are a few examples of people in Gardening Club who would do such a thing, but I'm not going to name names.
For many, I think the path itself is probably not enough. So they might want the path to have a destination, but I think a really nice path can just lead to nowhere. Especially if that nowhere is maybe just a peaceful place. Sometimes it's just nice to be able to have that path that goes there, knowing that you've always got that option available.
I think the journey was important for me because it really showed me who my true friends were and who my non-true friends were. Because people who supported me while I was making the path, few as they were, really helped lift my spirits. And those who didn't, I could tell that they were degrading, conniving, just disgusting human beings in general. So when I'm making it, I feel inspired, creative, happy. When I see that I've got a long path left to make, I feel it's like I feel like I've got to persevere. Then when I hear what people say about my path, I feel shame and unhappiness, and I feel like I want to cry.
I have to say it's more working with people rather than like the actual tasks might seem mundane at first, but it's more working with the people to do those mundane tasks. Is what I think makes this entire thing, not just making a raised bed, really fun for me.
Mm-hmm. I can see myself in the path I created because I think it's got a lot of character. It's not perfect, it's got some flaws here and there, but it tries its best. And I think that's the most important part.
Next up is our feculence removal and reassimilation program. This is our fancy way of saying the diggers. These are the people that dig the pit at the back of the garden. They're churning up our in-ground beds and sifting through all the soil that we have to make some good quality plant beds.
So I've been on the tidying committee. So when we, move large amounts of earth to create space for a path, people seem to want to just leave it there, and that's not okay. So as a digger, I dug the paths, and as a mover, I moved the dirt so it can be filtered and used again in raised beds and between stones in the path.
I've recently joined the cleaning committee as well, recently being today, and we've started moving a pile of dirt into the raised beds. So before I was on the cleaning committee, I was part of the pathing committee. I was one of the original members after Ethan. He technically taught me in the way of pathing. Then he also taught Ben and decided Ben was better than me and I was replaced. But I kept at it, I kept persevering, and in the end I thought I was an integral part of making the cobbled path to the shed. I was not involved in the perpendicular path to the raised beds because it looks slightly below average.
I can't lie to you, I'm not entirely happy with everyone's progress. Some people have been doing very well. Of course, our beloved Amir Grant is perfect, but certain people, Bella Pickup for example, are awful at creating paths, and I think the two should break up so Grant can get with me. Generally, things are going significantly better than they were at the start of Gardening Club's existence. It took months to get one compost bin done. Now we've got quite a few. We recently started working on more and more raised beds, and that's fantastic. We've got more and more of the path done, though it seems that that's stalled again, Bella. So things are looking up for Gardening Club's future.
The plant corps is dedicated to the plants. They do the planting, they take care of the plants. They even made a little tiny greenhouse box that we could grow stuff in without a proper greenhouse. Flowers aren't the only thing blossoming at Gardening Club. Over the last few months, we've watched Grant and Bella grow into a happy couple. They're gonna hate me for that.
I was riding in the woods and I came across a large tower, and inside I heard like really loud snoring. So I looked up and I said, Grant, let down your beautiful hair. He chucked his hair down the side, and that was how we met. And then he got a driver's license and he drove us to Balthazar.
Since then I've cut off my hair. It's a bit impractical.
Yeah, and I did his eyebrows as well.
That is true. I like eyebrows.
Yeah, you've got very handsome eyebrows. Well, you've got two. I doubled your match.
For our last few months here at WHSB, the Upper 6th Gardening Club team have grand plans of what we want to achieve. Currently, as of recording, we have 3 raised beds built. We want to expand this to 8. This will really allow us to reach our potential in terms of growing good, high quality crops. And it's not just they look good, but they actually provide different conditions for the plants in them. They're much more well drained than our clay-based soil, which means that plants like sweet corn thrive in raised beds where they would not survive in our soil. In addition to our big, high effort raised beds, we want to really do some more traditional gardening in ground, and we've allocated 2 areas of in-ground beds that we'd like to develop for this. And in here we'll grow stuff like pumpkins, cabbages, squash, traditional garden crops. But yeah, it's all looking to be quite good. And my personal favourite thing that we're going to be doing is a wildflower area. At the front of our garden, where currently it's all really churned up soil where cars used to drive up and down it, we want to recreate sort of natural environments that would have been there before humans came along, that attract our wildlife that's so necessary for the garden. Your hedgehogs, bees, other insects and birds. And at the back of the garden, the back of the plot, we plan on implementing an orchard where we'll grow cherry trees, apple trees, pear trees, which give us pretty low maintenance food for future years.
I personally think that the cleaning committee has a lot of work to do, but that's because it is very, very new. I am very, very upset that all the work for digging is done, and I would like to, do another get together with my diggers so that we can do some more digging, if you know what I mean.
Well, I would like to see at least some form of, more like raised beds and such made, so we've got a large garden as such, and one that we can truly call something we've worked on for just under a year, really, I think. And I think in doing that, that will be, my end goal as such.
I think the cleaning committee accept me more for who I am than the pathing team ever did. So I prefer to be part of a community that wants me, part of the community that ridicules me for what I try and do. It really is quite an emotional choice, but sometimes you've just got to move on.
Do you think by the end of the year you're going to have a tangible, grown item that can be put in a stew?
We actually already have. We had the mustard plants earlier on this year, but we also have some mung beans growing somewhere. We don't know where. We have lost the mung beans, but we do have them somewhere growing, and they will eventually kill us all, or be put in a stew. It depends which happens first.
In terms of our plans for the future, as our dear leaders already said, we're going to be making more raised beds to bypass the poor soil quality of the school, and then once that's done, we'll just see what happens.
I'm also a big part of the more creative division, obviously not this documentary side, I've barely got anything to do with that, bar this interview I'm doing right now, but particularly with YouTube videos, I've been involved. Also writing the Gardening Club musical, which is the fantastic stage play set to debut on Broadway next year, so look out for that when you're ready. Gardening Club the musical is based on a real story that happened to us at the start of Gardening Club when our beloved gnome and mascot Wilfram was murdered by one of our own. Gardening Club the musical, we set out to retell that story in an emotionally resonant and meaningful way that really lets everyone know how much Wilfram as a person meant to all of us. At the time when it first occurred, the real life murder, we were all sat around, much like Jesus, at the table, and our very own Judas, Breton Watt. I say his name with vitriol, for Breton Watt is a murderer, and he cannot get away with what he's done. He murdered my best friend, my ally, my closest confidant, and I will not let him forget it. He betrayed Gardening Club, he betrayed Wilfram, and he betrayed himself.
Do you think we should tear down all roads, destroy whatever they're made of into cobbles, and then pave the roads and make them walking?
I feel like you couldn't say all of the roads, because I think some of them would be very helpful, especially for gardening club. But definitely some roads, I feel like, don't serve much of purpose, and thus could just be turned into cobble for some nice pathways.
So we should destroy every road in the world that isn't directly linked to Gardening Club?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
I think in 500 years, Westcliff could be the capital of the United Kingdom just because its Garden Club-centric infrastructure is developed.
I think we can only dream about that for now. I think we need more work on the infrastructure, definitely around the Westcliff area, for it to properly be called the hub of the world.
A bit of a wider question, but how does it make you feel that 92% of English land is inaccessible to the people who don't own it?
Eat the rich.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I can't wait for that to be used against me.
What's a caterpillar?
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Don't say
Please
what?
don't say it.
Don't say what?
You were going to say caterpillar.
Okay, this is...
Can we just have stupid arrangements of the chairs? Anyway,
Can we stack the chairs on top of each other?
turn them both this way.
Like this. Right.
It's like a bus.
Consider. What is an ant? Blobs, legs on them. What's a millipede? Blobs with more legs on them.
Ants are so much more than a millipede in one sound.
No.
That's almost complete. You just need a little more time. Hey, what are you doing?